They called him a mechanic, but after he fixed the royal vessel, they called him a hero. The impossible repair. Nadia Reeves wiped her brow with a grease-stained rag as she squinted at the delicate quantum relay beneath her fingertips. The workshop lights in her corner of Helios Station flickered, an annoyingly common occurrence in the station's maintenance sector. The huge trading hub floated at the crossroads of 5 major transit lanes, making it ideal for someone with Nadia's unique talents. Humans weren't the most technologically advanced species in the Andromeda cluster, but they possessed an intuitive understanding of machines that other species found both bewildering and invaluable. Nadia had built a reputation on fixing the unfixable, devices other engineers had declared beyond salvation. The station's comm system crackled to life. Reeves to Docking Bay 7. Priority directive. Immediate response required. Nadia frowned. Priority directive meant someone important or desperate, typically both. She gathered her customized toolkit, a hodgepodge of standard tools and improvised instruments she created herself, and headed for the transit tubes. As she made her way through Helios's winding corridors, she noticed an unusual buzz of activity. Aliens of various species huddled in small groups, their conversations hushing as she passed. That's her, the human mechanic. They say the Osmidian vessel is completely dead. The Prime Minister is on board. Nadia quickened her pace. The Osmidians controlled nearly a quarter of the cluster, their technological prowess legendary. Their ships were part machine, part organism, living vessels that could heal themselves and adapt to threats. If an Osmidian ship was disabled, something truly catastrophic must have happened. Lieutenant Commander Thorne, the station's security chief, met her at the docking bay. The tall, 4-armed cetacean looked more agitated than Nadia had ever seen him. "Reeves, listen carefully," he said, his voice low. "The royal vessel Luminous Harmony is experiencing cascading system failures. Their engineers can't resolve it, and we've detected Vex scout ships entering the sector." The Vex. Nadia's eyes widened. They wouldn't attack a prime minister's vessel directly. They would if the ship can't move or defend itself, Thorne replied grimly. The Osmidians requested you specifically, by name. Me? Why not their royal engineers? They've tried. Now they're desperate. Thorne handed her a clearance chip. The shuttle leaves in 3 minutes. Don't embarrass us, human. The shuttle journey was tense. Through the viewport, Nadia could see the massive Osmidian vessel, a breathtaking construct of iridescent blue and silver. Even disabled, it was magnificent, its flowing lines reminiscent of both machinery and marine life. When Nadia stepped aboard, she was immediately surrounded by tall, slender beings with luminescent skin, patterned with swirling bioluminescent markings. The Osmidians had 3 eyes, 2 primary ones, and a smaller third eye in the center of their foreheads that could perceive energy flows. "I am Chief Engineer Zilith," one said, bowing slightly. "We have little time. The core systems began failing 12 cycles ago. Nothing in our technical archives addresses the issue." Nadia followed Zilith through ornate corridors. Unlike conventional spacecraft, the Luminous Harmony wasn't just a vehicle. It was a living entity, with organic systems integrated seamlessly with mechanical components. "This is incredible," Nadia murmured, running her hand along a wall that pulsed warmly beneath her touch. "How old is this vessel?" "It has served 17 generations of prime ministers," Zilith replied. "The understanding of its deepest workings has evolved over time." Translation: no one fully understood how it worked anymore. A classic problem across civilizations. Build something complicated enough, and eventually, the knowledge to maintain it properly becomes lost. In the central chamber, dozens of Osmidian engineers worked frantically. At the center stood a crystalline structure housing what appeared to be a massive pulsating heart connected to countless mechanical systems. Nadia approached, ignoring the skeptical glances from the Osmidian engineers. She pulled out her diagnostic tools and began taking readings, working methodically. After 20 minutes of examination, She saw the problem. The organic components had grown over centuries, gradually altering their integration with the mechanical systems. What the Osmidians interpreted as catastrophic failure was actually the ship attempting to evolve. "I need direct access to the neural pathways," Nadia announced. Zilith hesitated. "That is forbidden. The sacred core." "Allow her access," a new voice commanded. The Osmidians parted as a distinguished figure entered, taller than the others, wearing elaborate robes that shifted color like oil on water. The Prime Minister herself, Valenya Kor. Nadia straightened, suddenly aware of her oil-stained coveralls. "Your Excellency," she managed, "your ship isn't dying, it's evolving. But the mechanical regulators are fighting the process. I need to recalibrate them to accept the new neural pathways." The Prime Minister studied her with all three eyes. "Proceed." With the leader watching, Nadia opened a maintenance hatch and climbed inside, to where organic and mechanical systems intertwine most intimately. Using her tools and components fashioned from spare parts, she created bypass circuits to accommodate the evolved pathways. "Try powering up now," she called out. Slowly, the chamber hummed as energy flowed. The heart-like core glowed brighter, its rhythm steadying. Ship systems came online one by one. Nadia emerged, drenched in sweat and bioluminescent fluid. The Prime Minister approached as alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Vex vessels detected," announced a voice. "Weapons charging." "Perfect timing," Nadia said with a tired smile. "Your ship should be fully operational now." The organic components just needed room to grow. As the flagship's engines roared to life and its defense systems activated, the Prime Minister fixed all three eyes on the human mechanic. "You understand intuitively what we have forgotten through generations of knowledge specialization," Valenya Kor said. "You have saved more than you know, human, and for that, you shall be honored in ways you cannot imagine." 3 days later, Nadia found herself aboard a Osmidian diplomatic vessel bound for their homeworld, Osmidia Prime. The Vex ships had retreated immediately upon seeing the Prime Minister's vessel return to full power. Prime Minister Valenya Kor had personally invited her to visit their homeworld, an unprecedented honor for a human. The Osmidians were notoriously private about their home planet, allowing few outsiders to visit. "Your repair wasn't merely technical," Valenya explained as they watched the stars streak by. "It was philosophical. For centuries, we've been trying to control our ship's evolution rather than guiding it. Your approach may change our entire relationship with our living technology." "I just fixed what was broken," Nadia said, uncomfortable with the praise. "No," Valenya replied, her third eye pulsing gently. "You saw what was possible. On Osmidia Prime, you'll meet my 3 hairs, Talon, who oversees our defense forces, Jovan, who guides our diplomatic corps, and Phaedra, keeper of our technological archives. Each leads a different faction of our society, and each will wish to learn from you." Nadia looked out at the stars, wondering what she had gotten herself into. She was just a mechanic, not a diplomat or teacher. Yet somehow, she'd been thrust into the heart of Osmidian politics. "What exactly will be expected of me?" she asked cautiously. Valenya's facial markings glowed in a pattern Nadia couldn't interpret. "To share your perspective, Nadia Reeves, and perhaps to choose a path that will change both our civilizations forever." As the ship accelerated toward Osmidia Prime, Nadia felt a strange mix of apprehension and excitement. She had fixed an unfixable ship, but her greatest challenge was just beginning. The celestial choice. The azure spires of Osmidian Prime gleamed in the light of twin suns as Nadia followed her guide through the royal conclave. After 2 weeks on the Osmidian homeworld, she still found herself awestruck by its beauty. Crystalline architecture that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, vast gardens where plants responded to thought patterns, and technology so seamlessly integrated with biology that the distinction often blurred. "The hairs await you in the deliberation chamber," said Vindra, her assigned attendant. The slender Osmidian's markings glowed with what Nadia had come to recognize as anticipation. Nadia smoothed her formal attire, a flowing garment of reactive fabric that adjusted to her body temperature and mimicked the bioluminescent patterns of Osmidian skin. She'd been warned that today's meeting was significant, though no one would tell her exactly why. The deliberation chamber was a vast dome, whose ceiling displayed the real-time movements of Osmidian ships throughout the cluster. At the center stood the three heirs to the Prime Minister's position, each as distinctive as the facets of Osmidian society they represented. Talon, military executor, noticed her first. The tallest of the three, with sharp features and geometric markings that pulsed with controlled energy, approached with a formal bow. Mechanic Reeves, your guidance in recalibrating our defensive systems has proven most insightful. Talon's voice was crisp, efficient. The integration of adaptive algorithms has improved response times by 23%. Before Nadia could respond, Jovan, diplomatic overseer, glided forward. Where Talon was all angles and precision, Jovan moved with fluid grace, their markings swirling in complex patterns that subtly influence the emotional responses of those nearby. Our trading partners are fascinated by our new approach to technological symbiosis, Jovan said, their voice melodic. 3 former adversaries have requested peace talks since word spread of the changes you've inspired. The third heir, Phaedra, remained slightly apart, observing. As keeper of archives, she was responsible for the preservation and advancement of Osmidian knowledge. Her markings were the most complex Nadia had ever seen, branching fractals that seemed to hold countless secrets. You've studied our historical records extensively, Phaedra finally said, her voice soft but penetrating. You understand what few outsiders ever have, that our technology isn't merely tool or companion, but evolution itself. Prime Minister Valenya Kor entered the chamber, and all conversation ceased. She wore ceremonial robes that shifted hue with each movement, their colors broadcasting her status to all Osmidians present. Nadia Reeves of Earth, she announced formally. Your actions have proven more consequential than perhaps you realize. The repair you performed on the luminous harmony has catalyzed changes throughout our fleet. Our ships are evolving more rapidly than they have in 7 generations. Nadia nodded, unsure how to respond to such gravity. I'm glad I could help, Your Excellency. It is more than help, Valenya continued. It is transformation. And transformation requires guidance. She gestured to her 3 heirs. Each of my successors sees a different path forward for our civilization. Talon believes in strength through technological superiority. Jovan advocates for diplomatic expansion. Phaedra seeks deeper communion with our living technology. The Prime Minister's third eye fixed on Nadia with unsettling intensity. According to our most sacred traditions, when a fundamental shift occurs in our civilization, guidance must be sought from the catalyst. You must work closely with one of my heirs to shape the implementation of your insights. Nadia blinked in shock. You want me to choose between them? Not immediately, Valenya clarified. You will spend time with each, understanding their vision. In one cycle of our twin moons, you will make your selection. Before Nadia could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The celestial display overhead changed, highlighting a section of the royal shipyards where emergency indicators flashed. Containment breach in the evolutionary sector, announced an automated voice. Talon immediately accessed a command panel, barking orders as status reports flooded in. Accelerated growth in 3 ship nuclei, patterns similar to what occurred aboard the Luminous Harmony, but exponentially faster. I should go, Nadia said, already moving toward the exit. I might be able to help. To her surprise, all 3 heirs accompanied her, along with a security detail. They took a gravity tube directly to the affected sector, arriving to find chaos. 3 developing ship cores, the organic hearts of future vessels, had broken through their containment fields and were growing uncontrollably, merging into one another. The adaptive algorithms, Talon muttered. They've synchronized growth patterns across all ships in development. Nadia approached the writhing mass carefully. The patterns were similar to what she'd seen on the luminous harmony, but the scale was dramatically larger. "I need a multi-spectrum analyzer and neural flow regulators," she called out. "And bring me samples of the original genetic templates for these ships." As the Osmidian engineers scrambled to fulfill her requests, Phaedra stepped forward. "This isn't merely accelerated growth," she said quietly. "The pattern contains irregularities. See here and here." She pointed to sections where the growth twisted unnaturally. Nadia looked more closely. "You're right. This has been tampered with." "Sabotage," Talon demanded, hand moving to a sidearm. "Or experimentation," Jovan suggested diplomatically. With the equipment finally in hand, Nadia began taking readings while Phaedra provided historical context for the ship core's normal development patterns. Together, they identified a synthetic catalyst introduced into the growth medium, not enough to be detected by standard monitors, but sufficient to trigger chaotic evolution. "Someone wanted this to fail," Nadia concluded. "They wanted to discredit the new approach." "The Vex," suggested Talon. "Or conservative elements within our own hierarchy," Jovan countered. "Many fear change, especially change inspired by an outsider." With Phaedra's knowledge of historical growth patterns and Nadia's intuitive understanding of adaptive systems, they managed to neutralize the catalyst and stabilize the growth, not stopping it entirely, but channeling it into harmonious patterns rather than chaotic ones. When it was over, the three ship cores had indeed merged, but into something new and potentially more powerful than any single vessel. "Extraordinary," Phaedra whispered, her markings pulsing with excitement. "A collective intelligence, three distinct entities functioning as one." In the aftermath, as the Osmidian engineers continued monitoring the stabilized growth, Nadia found herself in a quiet observation room with the three hairs. The tension between them was palpable, each clearly seeing the implications of what had occurred through their own lens of understanding. "The sabotage confirms we must strengthen our security," Talon insisted. "Accelerate our military applications of this technology." "No," Jovan countered. "This demonstrates the need for wider acceptance before proceeding. We must bring our allies into this process, create consensus." Phaedra had been quiet, studying data streams on a holographic display. "Both approaches missed the true significance," she finally said. "What happened today wasn't merely sabotage or a technical challenge. It was a message." "From whom?" Nadia asked. "From the ships themselves," Phaedra replied. "The catalyst merely removed artificial constraints. The merging would have happened eventually, perhaps over centuries rather than hours, but it represents the natural evolution of our technology. We've been holding it back." Nadia looked between the three hairs, suddenly understanding the magnitude of the choice the Prime Minister had placed before her. This wasn't merely about technical guidance or political alliance. It was about the fundamental direction of an entire civilization's relationship with its living technology. 3 days later, Nadia stood before the Prime Minister and the assembled Osmidian leadership. She had made her choice after careful reflection, knowing it would alter not just Osmidian society, but potentially human Osmidian relations for generations. "I choose to work with Keeper Phaedra," she announced, "not because the other paths lack merit, but because understanding must precede action. Before we can decide how to proceed with this evolution, we must fully comprehend what it means for your ships, your society, and the future of all living technology." Valenia Core's markings glowed with approval. "A wise choice. But there is one further tradition to uphold." She gestured, and an Osmidian attendant brought forward a small pulsing object, a miniature ship core, barely the size of Nadia's palm. "This is the first nucleus created using the new understanding you provided," the Prime Minister explained. "It will grow to become a vessel unlike any we have created before. According to our ways, it belongs to you." Nadia carefully accepted the living technology, feeling it respond to her touch with gentle pulses of warmth. "I'm not Osmidian," she said quietly. "How can I guide its growth?" Phaedra stepped forward, placing her hand beside Nadia's on the ship core. "That is precisely why you must. New perspectives create new possibilities. Together, we will learn what it means to truly partner with our technology, rather than merely direct it." As the ship core glowed between their joined hands, Nadia felt a sense of connection, not just to the living technology or to Phaedra, but to a future where the boundaries between species, between organic and mechanical, between creator and creation might finally blur into something greater than the sum of its parts. The quantum mechanic from Earth had fixed more than a ship. She had opened a door to possibilities that neither humans nor Osmidians had imagined before. And now she would help write the next chapter of that story, together. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.